rise and say the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Present.
Trustee Clark? Trustee Lynch?
present.
Trustee Rowe? Here. Trustee Taylor? Present. Trustee Williams?
Present. Somebody like to make a motion for the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of January 7th, 2025. So moved. Trustee Williams. Trustee Taylor, any questions or any corrections? Okay. Clerk Williams, call roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Rowe? Yes. Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Did somebody, I'm sorry, Ryan Treasurer report.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Bills payable, the corporate piece was $476,420.71. Motor fuel tax is $8,133.68. Sewer and water is $152,196.50. Glenwoody Golf Course, $6,126.18. Tip House at North, $38,504.71, for a total of all funds of $681,381.78. With this, we do have some transfers, so we have a enterprise fund transfer from water sewer to corporate for $62,422.44. This is all due to the Homa disposal invoice, which the fees are collected on the water bills. And then a contiguous tip transfer of $40,000 from the industrial tip to the Halsted North tip, primarily due to the Fire Station 2 expenses mentioned above.
Somebody like to make a motion to approve the bill payment? Trustee Taylor. Trustee Clark. Any questions? Clerk Williams, call roll.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Clark? Trustee Lynch?
No.
Trustee Rowe?
Yes.
Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Williams?
Payroll.
So payroll for January 10th, 2025, corporate was $145,367.06. Sewer and water, $22,288.47. Paid on call, $14,355.35. Elected positions, $1,071.31. Glenwoody Golf Course, $11,072.72. Vendor checks was $1,522.35. Overtime, police overtime was $12,731.25, of which reimbursable was $1,144.58. Sewer and water, $1,450.39. Public Works, $780.98. Economic Development stipend, $461.54. Deputy Clerk stipend, $192.31, for a total payroll of $211,293.73.
Somebody like to make a motion to approve the payroll? So moved. Trustee Williams.
Second.
Trustee Rowe. Any questions? Clerk Williams, call roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Rowe? Yes. Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Clark? Yes. Trustee Brown?
Yes.
The meeting is now open to the public, or anything anybody wants to say, come up and, state your name and address
President, this meeting canceled due to the weather. There are a lot of people, they're having a problem with their cars, so just didn't want to come out in the cold, real cold.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it, but they rarely cancel meetings.
I remember in the summertime, meeting was just canceled because the weather was warm.
That's
The
because,
minister down here and Kevin was out front.
well, that's because the problem was is that the air conditioning in this building was now working. That's why it was so hot. After it was hot outside, it was hot in here, and we didn't want anybody to get sick or overheat.
Okay, Mr. President, where is the financial report that we've been promised from the last meeting and meetings prior to that? And it was stated that it was forthcoming, so where's the financial report?
Is there a report in the packet?
Finance regular report is in the packet.
No, just the bank statements is in the pack, this time.
We need to copy.
I'm sorry,
I said we need to copy.
how will the residents get a copy? I mean, I think this is a report that, we should have hard copies, it should be maybe attached to the agenda, but the residents should have a copy also.
That's a good idea. We'll do that.
Okay, so, for the next meeting, promised?
That's fine, make sure that's in the packet.
Voted.
My next question, is the 3.5 pay increase that management received, is that going to be in the budget, financial report also?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
We did not pay retro pay.
Retrograde. Okay, can you tell me who those people were that received it?
As far as all the employees,
Management only or all employees?
all employees. I shouldn't say that the staff in the front office receive more money than 3.5%.
Right, and it would be excluding those that are in unions.
I can't hear you.
It would exclude those that are in unions, so that would exclude public works and that would exclude the police department.
Could you tell me what is the outcome of the remaining of the ARPA spending? This was a special meeting that we were here and discussed it, and these were ideas that came forth, and we have not heard anything else. So what is the outcome of this?
As far as the ARPA funds,
Mm-hmm.
we haven't spent any yet. What we did is we did a list for the end of the year.
Right, this is the list.
Which exceeded the ARPA funds, that we have remaining. And we're going to choose throughout this year, because the report has to be to the state, and the county, I should say, before the end of the year. So we're going to start on that. One of the projects that we've already started, so we haven't paid anything, is the senior center. Please.
Have you considered, maybe, having committees that would work and bring it back to you and the board, what the communities would want? Just say like for the, senior citizen or the sport team, but sport team is kind of self-explanatory, but, the welcome signs and the holiday decorations, having, an input from residents.
Sure. What are your inputs?
I'm sorry?
You have any inputs now? Okay.
Okay, I have another question. Do we have a new HR, coordinator?
Yes.
Okay, how come I never met her? Right. Susan,
At a board meeting. And she has attended board meetings.
I'm sorry.
She has attended board meetings as well.
I think I know who you all are talking about, and I think I seen her when the insurance people were here. That's the only time.
She's not a director.
Yeah, she's not a department head.
I'm sorry.
She is not a department head.
Okay, she's a coordinator? So what does she do?
That's all personnel.
Okay. have one last question. Did you ever find the $200,000 that has been missing for a while?
Well, it hasn't been missing, but Brian, can you talk to that?
If it's not found, it's missing.
What exactly are you asking about? Is this the golf course, $200,000?
Yeah, but the golf course didn't have it. They stated that they did not receive it.
Because I don't think it ever went through, hence there was no $200,000 that is owed anywhere. I don't see it in any of the books, and I think I made that comment earlier in one of the previous meetings, but I went back to the records to try to identify it, and I couldn't see it anywhere in the records that there was any transfer being made.
Okay. Did you also see that, and I'm gonna say my words carefully, that there was $140,000 that allegedly ended up in a bank account?
I would need to know more specifics to be able to try to answer that question.
Discussion at the board meetings, and that's also been a discussion at the finance committee meetings, that money was missing also.
I've never heard that before. I've never heard
Okay,
that.
okay. And possibly before the meeting is over, I brought my minutes here, I'm gonna find it and give it to you before the meeting is over.
Good evening, everyone. Eric Slaughter, 512 Center Street. Thank you. I just have one question. It was more of a curiosity. You may have explained this in previous meetings. I wasn't here. But it seems that every time I'm here, I'm looking, and there is police overtime and marginal reimbursement. Now we're looking at $12,731 versus $1144 in reimbursable. Chief Pettifor, can you tell me why we have so much in overtime for police?
Yes, I can. This payroll is from December 23rd to January 5th. And that encompasses what is historically a high time for people to take off, which is the New Year's and Christmas holidays. That coupled with the fact that we are down on officers, we have one officer who's out on injury, light duty because of an off-duty illness, he tore a bicep. Another officer has been deployed since last summer. I don't know if you were here for the meetings for that, where we wish him well, but he's still deployed overseas. He's supposed to be coming back hopefully in spring. We have another FTO, or another officer who's in field training who we recently hired, but he's not allowed to count as manpower because he's still in training. And we have, during this period, this payroll, we also have 2 additional vacant spots that were just not filled. So the brunt of this payroll was for backfilling officers who were off on vacation, and our officers, the way our contract is, they bid on vacations at the beginning, or at the end of the calendar year for the next fiscal year that goes into March. And so when those officers make their plans, they plan family trips and things like that. So we generally don't cancel or rescind vacations because that's just a morale killer. People counter time off. It would further be the antithesis of our recruitment and retention. And so we allow it to happen and backfill it with our overtime budget. And so we're not exceeding our budget, what we budgeted for. We know there's going to be overtime. And this is good spending because it's very important for officers to take time off with their families, for their officer mental health. Also, during this time, there was a double homicide in Park Forest, I think Christmas Eve or so, and we are part of something called the South Florida Major Crimes Task Force, where we always, when we need help, they come to us, and when they need help, we go to them. So that incorporated 40-some hours of our investigators working. Unfortunately, most of these homicides and things like that don't happen Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. They're middle of the night kind of stuff. I'm on a task force for a decade or so, so I know that, that happens. You gotta send people, and they gotta work it. There's a show, the first 48, and it really is true to life. The first 40 hours are critical in resolving these cases as fast as possible, bring justice for the victims' families. In addition to that, we have special details for the New Year's Eve weekend. We want to make sure that we have enough officers on patrol for New Year's Eve because we know that people like to have parties, drink, things like that, which, as the nights get later, the level of contact of people goes higher, the decision making starts going lower, so we staff up to patrol for that. We also have a couple of major departments called SMART, which is for the major accident reconstruction team. There's some fatal accidents that we had to, like the major crime task force, we deploy officers to assist other agencies when they have usually fatal accidents. So that was another driver, and for later arrests, there were a couple hours for that. But yeah, for this particular pay period, it's a combination of the holidays and short-staffed. We are working on that. We did hire another officer a couple of weeks ago who was also in field training. And hopefully, when our other officers get back from the military and injury, once we get to full staff, we will be able to have people taking time off or getting sick, things like that, without having to always backfill. But unfortunately, right now, at our staffing levels and the incidents, we have to backfill with overtime. But again, that's budgeted money. It's like we budget for purchases of equipment and tools like that. So there's an amount that we anticipate spending throughout the year.
Do you have any grants that you can pull some of that money from?
We do. We have the STEP grant, which is the Sustained Threat Enforcement Program. That's not run at this period. There's certain benchmarks throughout the year where we actually did the New Year's Eve STEP grant was part of this. We also have they do Halloween deployments, speed deployments for most of the summer. We partake with that. We also do certain operations that are involved personally through our federal forfeiture funds when we do that. Whenever our grants are out there, we look for, we apply for them. So yes.
So is it you yourself that look after these grants, or is there a grant writer that's here that goes out?
We have myself, I'm deputy chief. We also have a contract with Lexipol, Lexipol, where they write grants for the village.
And then lastly, do you have reserve officers of any sort, or are you looking into that so that we can kind of cut down on this, or volunteer officers that are retired?
That would conflict with our CDA. Only sworn enrolled officers are allowed to take overtime. Or actually, they first did that. If no enrolled officer, union bargaining member wants it, then it can go to our reserve, our reserve, but we have part-time officers. So yes, it can. If there's an overtime shift, and all our full-timers, our sworn union members decline it, then it gets offered to our part-time officers.
Thank you
We are
very much.
looking into a CSO program in the near future to help with certain things to free up officers.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Mayor,
Yes.
on the notes from May 3rd, 2022, it was discussed that $200,000 was transferred to the golf course, and we were going to look into that. So it's been that part back.
This is the same dollar, right?
I'm sorry.
This is the same 200,000?
So that was discussed, and it should be in the notes from May 3rd, 2022.
I do want to take a look again and see if you.
Will do.
Good evening, everyone. Leon Moore, V1A Blackstone. Everybody around the county.
The chairman.
I do have a few questions in the county area, so bear with me. In terms of that $200,000, that was an issue that we followed up on because it was an entry made in the books that the $200,000 transferred to Glenwood, which
Into what?
there was an entry in the books that $200,000 was transferred from the general fund to Glen Woody, but there was no reciprocating entry in Glenn Woody's books that they received. And so, we like to say it was $250,000 that we did not trace. And that brought us to the point that we needed to have authority for transferring among funds because we wanted to avoid that situation going forward. Whether or not that money was erroneously coded into the books, but we never really tracked it. That was a lot of people were not on the board at the time that happened. So it's just one of those historical things. Whether or not there should have shown a counter entry where it came from so that we would have a level entry system. I don't know what to say about it. That's it. It's something about $250,000 went wrong, we never traced it down. So, as I remember, Trustee Lynch wanted to put more control on transferring funds, so at least the board would have had some knowledge as to whether or not it was an authorized transfer. And so I hope that will go forward, and I see in the report that Mr. Jansen put forward, there's still transferring funds, and I guess the question was whether or not the board have a heads up when responsible for transfer, at least we find ourselves in the same situation of trying to find funds that were transferred that may not come to the board for official authorization. I believe that, and we've gone through this months and months and months, and so I thought the policy, listening to Mr. Lynch, is that we wanted the board to approve transfer of funds. And I thought that the board agreed, so I understand, but I'm looking at the report, the current report, and there's some transfer of funds in respect to the firehouse again, and whether or not that came to the board whether or not Mrs. Jansen in effect is bringing this to the board for the transfer approval, or has that been done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm getting my notes.
Mr. Moore, I'm sorry,
He said, what did I say? I'm sorry.
are you asking if funds are already spent, has work already been done, or are you saying has prior approval already come to the board?
I'm saying a little bit of both because Kevin gave me a copy of the report because it does not even happen, so it's not. It seems that there are some transfers of monies that have been spent, okay, which is kind of contrary to the procedure because the board only the board has the authority to spend the money. And so, and I'll wait for Kevin to get into this later, but I'm just want to track the transfers so that we don't get into this situation where we have to go back and try to find out why we went. And also, pre-approval is part of the process. There's a process. You know, the department heads cannot spend money without the pre-approval. If it's in the budget, even so, they still have to come back to the board to get approval to spend the money. And so apparently, if this is over budgeted, already spent, something went wrong in the system.
That didn't happen.
Okay, I'll tell you, look, I'm not the guy. I was just going, I have my agenda and I see you. But anyway, that was it. Kathy mentioned in terms of the statements, you know, part of the treasurer's responsibility, as you guys are you do deserve a financial statement at every meeting. Not so much just the bank accounts. We do need to be, according to the procedure, we should get a statement of any financial condition. Because in addition to the payouts, in addition to the income, we need to know how we stand, and that report was forthcoming at the treasurer level. Is that not true? That is a part of the treasurer's responsibility, and it's in your handbook that the treasurer has to produce a statement of financial condition at least on a monthly basis. We have to know where we stand financially. And so it's kind of mystifying to me how the board can approve expenditures if we don't know where we stand. And maybe we do, I hope, because you continue to approve expenditures, but we need to know how we stand. That's all we, as a citizen, that's all I, as an accountant, that's all I. So,
We have just added inclusively, Commissioner Moore, and to Ryan's credit, has provided the board with, at least I like to think, with as much financial information that we possibly can. I realize definitely haven't been getting. Now, and I would imagine it's hopefully something we're working towards, but there hasn't been much improvement in terms of getting regular statements every meeting, but that intentionality in terms of what our obligations are and those running totals for our current projects that we have, no, we haven't been getting those.
And all I'm saying, I'm just pointing this out. I'm the accountant. So I'm the accountant. We gotta keep track of the money. At least we find ourselves on the front page of the paper or something like that. And I mentioned that with regard to some follow-up items that we were working on. Cooper Miller, we extended the agreement that so, and I know it's expensive, there's some controversy about the amount. But what we deserve as a citizen, as a resident, what is the report? Where do we stand? We outsource the accounting function. We do not see any of the reports. I mean, the department gets accounting reports. If we outsource the accounting function, it seems to me that the residents are entitled to know what progress are we making in respect to the accounting function, so that we will have some sense as to whether or not we're getting value for the money that we're paying. You know, even that the police department, they need to send a report in here so that we can, as citizens, know what we're paying for and what the status of our accounting operation is. And so I asked that again, because I know this controversy when they asked for the extension, because the amount were not modest, they were very expensive amounts. And so we deserve some kind of at least on a monthly basis. What is the status of our internal accounting? I know Mr. Mitchell indicated that, you know, we don't have the hands to do all of that. And so that's why we engage group members, whatever, so that we need to get a report. Because if we had a finance committee, we would be getting a report prior to it going to the board relative to how we stand, not only on our receivables, our construction, our receivables, money's due to the village, things like that. We don't see that.
So that, you know, Mr. Warren, I just want to answer this for you so that the questions don't linger. The administrative issue, he provided the board updated report from the Cooper yesterday evening.
That'd be great.
So we did receive that, they did give a status update of where they are. And our village administrator talked with them this afternoon. He assured me he's aggressively working to get them from 2 to 3 times a week to about 2 to 4 times a month. So that, because at this point, essentially they completely reconciled everything, at least per the notes that we received. And that right now they are just maintaining the process. And so the best thing for us to do is to try to get that vacancy filled as quick as possible, because obviously without them, that's yet another task that Brian will have to complete add to his already existing responsibilities. So, and I did ask the last meeting that it comes back to the board once we reach at least 25,000 in billable hours with them, because if we are going to decrease their days from 2 to 3 times a week to at least 2 to 4 times a month, we should see a significant decrease. And if all they're doing at this point is posting issues, if all of the previous work, at least per their mission, is completed, they should just be essentially that issue at this point, more or less. But I was going to ask that later on where we are financially with them, because I got a bill from October to November for $22,000. So I'm anxious to know where we are currently.
Now, our interest in terms of, I represent board of district stuff, in terms of the residents, we need to see that, in other words, in terms of how, we're not trying to say that the residents have oversight in terms of how it happens, but at least we need to see what we're paying for. It's like, you know, when Jim raised a question about police overtime, we need to know what we're getting for that money that we're paying for the money, you know, and so that's all we're asking. So if it comes out, it's not on the website, so we have no way of knowing where we stand financially, because the website provides a very good report that Mr. Jansen puts up in terms of the payouts. Okay. And I guess I have another question on that. On the payouts and the overtime and all those things. not matter if you don't get a report in terms of the accounting function that we're paying for, we have to go through. It just leaves it out there in terms of guessing. I think Kathy, when she was asking all about these questions, I too have that concern. We need to have more transparency in terms of the Open Meetings Act, in terms of what comes out. It's not on the website. I'm sure it's not on the website. Because I go to that quite frequently. So that's an ask. I don't know if the board is going to make a decision in terms of spending money if you don't have a kind of a summary as to what it's. That's my ask. Okay, I'll look at that. I did ask about the audit. I always ask about the audit in terms of where we stand on 22. And I just spoke to Mr. Madison. He said that we're in process. Okay, so that's fine. Now, keep in mind, we only have 4 months left in this fiscal year. We got to start this whole process over in a few months. So we need to know, understand how much the revenues have we realized and this the estimates that we put in the budget. And
Can you speak up a little bit?
I'm sorry.
Getting more quiet.
My question and my point was that we're 4 months from the end of the fiscal, okay? And we were doing the budget, we just got over in December. So now we should be able to realize how much of the revenues that we projected in that budget, how close are we to realizing that revenue? We're doing the expenditures, and I know that's necessary to buy stuff and all that stuff based on the budget, that's fine. But how much of the revenue are we going to make the revenue numbers so that if we're going to fall short, it used to be the finance committee would come in and tell you, hey, you're going to have to slow down, you can't buy this, you can't buy that, because the revenues are not. I'm not sure the board is giving that two-sided picture. At least we don't see it. So that's why we have to have some sense of the revenue side. And so that hopefully at a future meeting, we can get a sense as to how close are we coming to the projected revenue that we're getting. That's an answer. Okay. Sit down and do something. We also had an issue with the annual financial report that was due to the state comptroller's office. And at the October meeting, I understand from Mr. Bridges that we have got some extension. Now we're into January. Now the question really is, it's not on the website, have we complied with the annual financial report requirements, which is kind of we're home rule, but that's still one of the exceptions that we still have to comply with that kind of requirement. And we would sanction that in our control office. We can withhold any revenues that are coming to you, things like that, they're doing in one of our systems. And so I don't know if we don't get an update as to whether or not we're close to, in effect, accomplishing that annual financial report. And that's another ask, because we certainly don't want to have to sit here 2 months from now and say we didn't get our monies because we didn't finish the report. And it's a compliance issue. It's a commission to be compliant when we got money. The last one that I had, of course, on the fire station, I tracked, Kevin gave me his hand, every time I'm here, I'm tracking the fire station in terms of cost, because I had it at 1.8, I know that there was some shortfall. I don't know, Kevin, did you get an increase in the pay? We're down to 1.8.
That's what I'm looking for to see.
Oh, okay. Okay. But, and the reason I track that, because in the transfer of TIF money, all those kind of things, it's just easier for us as citizens to track what is that project ultimately going to cost us. Okay, because there are other projects in the village that need attention, and we want to make sure that the other obligations on that TIF money, are being satisfied in addition to whatever extension that we get, whatever overrun we may have in the finances. And that's why we track it. Not that we don't trust what's going on, we just have to track it and make sure on the accounting side that those monies are running parallel to what you've already approved. If there's going to be an additional approval, we have to also look and see whether or not there's any other obligations on that TIF for money in addition to what we may approve for the budget of the fire station. So, second. And so the other issue is that since the board has the authority, since only the board has the authority to allocate those monies, the question is how did the fire department get over letters like $40,000? Is that a fair question?
It is.
Yeah, okay, so I leave that to you guys, because you guys got the final say. But if we're gonna have some control over how we spend our money, is that should not occur. Whereas you can't go over unless it's an emergency. An emergency, obviously. But if it's not an emergency, it should go through the regular process. That's all I'm saying. You see, I'm not critiquing the legitimacy of it. It's just the process that we have to keep in place. Otherwise, we will get all kinds of sideways comments and things like that. Let's see. Okay. I think that's about my agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Communications from the mayor's office. We have a motion for the approval naming Chicago Southland and Visitor Bureau as our convention and visitor bureau of record. This is the only convention or bureau in town for them to get grants and things along those lines. They need a certain number of towns to be obligated. It doesn't cost us any money. And we've done this for at least 10 years. I would like to make a motion. Trustee Rowe, trustee Gay, trustee Clark. Is there any questions? Clerk, will call roll.
Yes. Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Rowe?
Yes.
Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Williams?
Aye. I just got an announcement. The program, the Light of Glenwood residents desiring to participate in this program and express their interest in sending a message via the website to the building department, if in the building department, or by calling or stopping into the village hall. We're going to get more information out. The village will supply interested residents with as many as 3 LED light fixtures for the installation on the front of the residence or garage and locations that will allow light to project on the public way in front of their property. The village has negotiated with 3 electrical contractors to install these lights on existing openings at a reduced cost that the residents will be responsible for. Once we sign up an inspector, we'll visit it once we sign up an inspector, will visit the property, perform assessments of compliance and make necessary suggestions to enhance the lighting ability. The building department number is 708-753-2416. We're going to post this on the website, social media, and a number of other things. The other thing I want to announce is that on February 14th, 25, Valentine's Day, we're going to have a Valentine's luncheon and dance at Glen Woody from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Scrimmenti will be the caterer. Yes, the seniors and veterans. That's my announcements. The attorney's report, Jen.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I just want to be clear. So I know that the board, it was mentioned, but I didn't believe the board took any action on the Light Up Glenwood program. So how is that going to be funded? How's that going to work?
When we had our ARPA fund, we also was a little bit late.
So that was one of the things that we suggested. I don't, so we suggested a lot of things, and I know that one of the things I suggested, which doesn't mean it has to take precedence as action, but I didn't know that from our collective or lack thereof conversation, that anything was going to actually move forward. I thought that we had surrendered the suggestions and that it would come back to the board in a presentation on how the money would be specifically spent. So has that happened, or is, I don't know, so how much of that is going towards it, and how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, we probably should have had this as an agenda item, so why don't we, we'll postpone it for the next board meeting when you're on.
I mean, I remember in the suggestion, everything was a suggestion, and I just didn't know what direction we were going with anything, which if that's the majority or the recommendation from staff, that would be great. It would just be nice to know that that's one of the things that we're going to move forward with. Because one of the things I was going to ask when we're in new business is to do with ARPA funds, that we take action on that before this election. I know we got an election coming up, and if this board had made suggestions or recommendations that those happen before, should there be changing of guards, because we've kind of been sitting on our discussion for a while, so it'd be almost if we're want to finalize not just the light, but the entire disbursement before this election happens.
Yeah, we can get them here, I don't have them yet.
Or does it, before we even purchase them, should we gauge the interest of people? Because I think the last time we did that, it didn't turn out well.
Yeah, you're right, but that wasn't a real sponsor, that was something that was done with the States Homeowners Association did, and you're right, it didn't turn out well.
Yeah, if we could have, just take, I don't know maybe what companies do, but I don't know anything about it. Like, this would be nice to know that if that's the direction we're gonna go, to know how that plan is gonna roll. What, if there, is there a shared cost? Are the residents gonna be responsible for a cost too?
I think they would be responsible for the installation you provide funds.
Mayor, if maybe I misheard something, but I thought all you were reading was about seeking information from people who are interested, right?
Yeah, this time.
Yeah, so we're not really spending any money, we're not buying any fixtures, we're just seeing, at this point, who might be interested or who not, we haven't responded yet, which the board would then factor into the ultimate decision.
Well, that's my suggestion, is that it would sound like what Mayor said. It's not like that. That was an initiative happening and we move forward with that.
And we'll have a report at the next board meeting. We can put this out here. Ryan, I think we're going on the websites and everything, just to see what, see the interest in doing this, see what our response is before we decide to go forward.
Okay.
Thursday report, agenda item.
No report, Mayor.
Village administrator, right?
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees, representatives and guests. A couple items. One thing that we talked about for a couple meetings has been the budget survey, so just want to let you know we're finalizing that. We'll be going out to residents, we'll do that in a similar form we've done with surveys in the past, so that it will be easy for residents to get their input back. That will conclude with a meeting that will be on February 25th at Glenwood, for everyone to come in and to meet and to share the information that comes from those surveys. As well, we've opened the cooling center or a cooling center as well, if needed, or heating and cooling center. If necessary, we'll open the police station and fire station should there be a need. The last thing I want to do is also really kind of say thank you to a couple things. As you know, we've had some cold spells, so I want to thank not only Public Works, but also fire and police as they work out there in the cold weather to make sure that the community is protected. As well, I received some compliments from residents in regards to things that are going on in the county, in terms of assistance that have been provided by various departments there. This afternoon, I did receive some calls from residents that tried to call back from the voting calls that you made, so they said they called back and couldn't get you probably because you were still on the phone. So thank you for making those calls, and that will conclude my report for this evening.
Any questions for the village administrator?
I have a question, but I have a, yes, a recommendation, if you will. Much to village insurance point, I don't, Mayor, would it make sense, and I don't know if we would have in younger meetings, for us to even enact an ordinance where, when we look at whatever the state or county might consider freezing or dangerous temperatures, that we just say, we'll automatically cancel board meetings or close village hall so that you don't even have to entertain those conversations. If whatever is considered dangerous temperatures, that's already an ordinance for the village that we won't, I mean, if we move move to a digital platform for the meeting, then that's fine, but tonight's we probably should be canceled, but, and I understand, you know, you've not done much, but, in terms of canceling before, but I think it would make sense for us to consider that, just as a relative.
Well, people gotta be paid. Employees gotta be paid, vendors have to be paid, their lives, their families rely on this. So I don't know that it's just canceling your board meeting is kind of a big deal.
Well, it doesn't have to be canceled. If we perhaps the language should be moved to a digital platform. We had board meetings usually during COVID. So it doesn't necessarily have to be canceled, but while we're also considering what technically we kind of do this in person anyway. We've already been paid. We're just going formalities of it. So I just think we should have alternatives already in place so that when this does happen,
It happens and we make it the next day or something.
or we just move to, that's part of the reason we upgraded our audio systems to be able to do that. So we just move to doing digital. Yeah, something like that. It doesn't necessarily be canceled, but we do that now.
But it's an interesting topic. Good call.
I didn't think it'd be important. That's the only reason I said it.
Well, we could do an ordinance if you like.
Yeah. Engineering. Dave.
Thank you, Mayor. No report this evening.
Let me give an update on the pre-engineered meeting for the road that we're gonna do.
Correct. As you recall, there was a bid opening in November for the next phase of 187. So that would be the intersection from the bridge in front of the school, and then southwards up to the Butterfield Creek Bridge, and around the curve. Actually, we'll have an omission where Penn Oceanic just paved, and then we'll pick up and go all the way to Pleasant. There will be a pre-construction meeting for that on Monday with the construction, Public Works, Administrator, Police and Fire have all been invited. And there will be via WebEx, that's what the state.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Departments reports, please, Chief Medical.
Mayor, trustees, guests, and residents, start with briefly publishing our reports for the month of January, previous month's activity during the month of December. Police department responded to 701 calls for service. The majority of those calls were traffic stops, assist FD, alarm calls, speak to officer, significant. We had one activation for our SWAT team member to assist in our agency, 2 activations for our accident reconstruction team, and as I mentioned before, 1 activation for the double homicide in Park Forest. There were numerous arrests throughout the month of December, including traffic offenses for suspended of both drivers, 1 arrest for unlawful use of weapons, a couple of warrants were served for domestic battery, burglary. During the Development District joined the state police and local law enforcement agencies to ensure highway travelers were bumped up to drive sober, put their ticket or drive sober, get pulled over. Enforcement campaign ran from December 13th to January 2nd. During the month of December, our officers received training in officer wellness and mental health. Certain officers also received specific training in arrest tactics, accident reconstruction, and tactical training. We'd like to welcome our newest officer, Michael Bonsanto, to the police department. Officer Bonsanto has previous law enforcement experience and is a certified police officer. He's currently in field training to learn about the village, our policies, procedures, and operating standards of the Wells Police Department, as well as any other necessary training. We did participate in the annual Shop at the Top event, the South Association of Chiefs of Police. We had some students from London there with us. It was a great time had by all. And I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize and thank Sergeant Joseph Gillette for his 25 years of service to the village of London. That concludes my report. Also have one agenda item on here, that is to request to purchase 2 2025 Ford Police Interceptor vehicles at a price not to exceed $103,524.
$150,524.
$103,520.
So moved.
First, I'm gonna just make the change tonight.
It is fully loaded. Pardon?
That's fully loaded.
It's ready for the roll package. It's not fully loaded, but it does have some lights and it's pre-wired for most of it. We will have to get a couple extra pieces of equipment, but those will come from other line items, such as our communications and our general person tool equipment. But they are placed in their separate packages that are what's called ready for the road. They're almost there, but not quite. We need our specific radios and things like that, and striping.
Would someone like to make a motion for the approval of 2025 Ford Police Interceptor vehicles for a cost not to exceed $153,524?
So moved.
Trustee Lynch. Trustee Clark. Are there any questions?
I just have one, and I could need a correction, but was in your budget, was it originally just one car with changes to, was it always two?
It was always two.
Public Works had one, is that correct? Truck, right?
Public Works had multiple vehicles, police had 2 on the budget, and fire had 1.
Any other questions? Williams,
I do have
all right.
So how long will it take to get these vehicles?
Fortunately, I contacted Curry Ford, and they have 4. Last time I spoke to them, they had 4 on the lot. They were holding 2 for us. Otherwise, the next build doesn't start till March, so we should be able to get them very soon. At Curry Ford, they do have a contract through the state, so these are state-bid prices.
The reason for my question, I was trying to figure out which budget cycle those vehicles would go in. Is it the current cycle or the current?
This current episode.
Any other questions? Clerk Williams, call the roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Roll?
Yes.
Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes, I wanted to just ask Chief one quick question. How is Officer Nick doing with the loss of his wife?
Good. We speak often. He seems to be doing well back here. He's got the support of the department, so.
I think that, I know it's kind of late, but I think that we should have a moment of silence for, excuse me, Officer Nick losing his wife.
Let's have a moment of silence. Thank you. Any other questions for the chief? Okay, fire and building, Chief Hall.
Yes, Your Honor, memorandum that I prepared for you, and back hand in hand asking for a final increase to the budget for the fire station. I ran out there where, the expenditures to date, and this is the spreadsheet that, Ryan and I worked on, which shows that overall, to complete everything 100%, I'm looking for a budget increase of $240,000. And I laid it out there. The funding for such would come out of combination, could be coming out of a combination of contiguous TIFs. Remember that this entire project was a TIF project, and the total funds available in the contiguous TIF is $5.7 million for the sheet, approximately $5.7 million for the sheet that you have in front of you at your desks. Just as a note as well, in addition to that monies that I'm asking for, we're still processing 11% rebate back to the village from the Menards usage that we did, which should total a little bit more than $5,000. Included in the spreadsheets that Brian created, our county software, what I coined as ancillary costs, and that was the rental of the temporary fire station office building, the construction fencing, the environmental testing and remediation. Those were items that weren't included in the original construction budgets at about $34,240. And we're currently in about the 60%, 70% completed phase of a grant, which is, I believe, was an earmark from Robin Kelly's office towards construction, so that would go toward the cost of construction. End of note, I believe, is the fact that, the firefighters have done a lot of volunteer time, accounting for all of the interior painting, the landscaping outside, the ceramic tile in all the bathrooms and showers, the vinyl plank flooring throughout the entire station, and all the installation of all the sound and notification equipment. So this, as I say, hand in hand, I guess I didn't make my mark, but it is falling about $240,000 short from, has not been paid out yet. Those bills are still in held and not paid. And then the current overages, which is on the transfer list tonight, of $41,210, which puts us at a 14.9% overall increase. And I believe the majority of that can be attributed to a 15-month project that was delayed by the shortage of steel, the shortage of concrete block, a couple of different labor issues, and it cost us. It cost us the increase because the cost of materials going on right now. And I guess I'll take any questions.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure. And we did save money. We didn't pay a general contract.
You didn't pay a general contractor, if you remember. I did all the construction management on my regular time, and we didn't pay the standard architectural fee of 8 to 12% on the total cost of the project. And as that project escalates, of course, their cost goes up on both of those, construction management and. So probably on each one of those, you're talking anywhere from $16,000 to $20,000 additional for each of those. South Holland Fire Department, in addition to their fire station 1, which they just awarded contracts, it's about one third the size of what we've created, and their bid packets came in at $3.4 million, and Tinley Park has just entered bids to do almost identical to what we did here with the station, their station number 47, and that came in at a price tag of $4.2. Overall, I think we did very well, but I know I'm going to take my licks here from going over.
Any questions?
Chief, on the page that we're looking at, it says, in addition, there are a few items remaining to be paid after full punch list items are completed. So are these the punch list items, or are there additional items after?
No, these are the punch list items.
The punch list items, okay. So thank you for answering that question. I have two other questions. Well, one question's already answered because I want to know what was left in the TIF, so I have that sheet in front of me, so I know the TIF balances, so I appreciate that.
I guess I'd like to know at what point, I know this is a huge project. I know you've been working really hard on it. At what point did you know that you were going to be over this much?
I don't know exact date for that. I mean, I've been reporting when asked. I think Trustee Lynch asked several times. I knew I was approaching that, but even I don't have it in front of me, but even tally sheet of pardon me, look here, but even the tally sheet of even the tally sheet, I don't know what the date on there, but it was end of, through 12/17, there was still a remaining balance. It was there was a remaining balance of about 36,000. And my only answer to that is, from that point on, I really lost track of what those, and the majority of these on this overspent list are a couple of the extras and the final payments, the closeouts of the contracts. And I just totally lost track of that.
Okay, and would you say this is it?
Yes.
Or the cost of it?
Yep.
This is it?
Yeah, I've gone through everything. I contacted every contractor, subcontractor, and got in their final bills and payments. One area that hurt us was the elevator change. That price went up outrageously, almost 40%, just as one item. But this is the final.
Any other questions?
Yes.
So, I know at times I can say for myself, if I set a budget for Christmas shopping, I say I'm gonna spend $300, and then I go shopping and you get this, and I forgot that person, and so you go over. And I think the biggest question for me is just making sure that we have the resources. So we have the tip balances. And so do we have any other projects that will interfere with these balances so that we can support this overage?
Yes. The answer to that is probably a little more complex, but the fact of the matter is, of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 contiguous TIFs, they're sitting right now, and this was a debate that Brian and I had in budget time, trying to figure out how to show this, because it's not your typical budget where you're zero balance budgeting. You actually had money in the bank in each one of these TIFs, and you're projecting the twice annual incomes from the tax bills. But I can tell you that in examining the TIFs, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 TIFs involved, the only encumbrances we have in those TIFs are, as John coins it, those pay-as-you-go. So if there's any encumbrance on those, it's not on the balance in the TIF, it's on the money to come. The example to that would be on the animal hospital and the Anytime Fitness. That's a pay-as-you-go. So as they pay their tax bill, they get 50% of that rebated to them, and we keep 50% in the TIF. We have had, and I think Trustee Lynch will remember, we've had extensive discussion over the last couple of years. What encumbrances can you place as projects at your level onto those TIF balances so we can recognize the full value? And that was the one thing we spoke of just recently about the Main Street lighting project with the benches and the high and low light. And then rehabilitation of the Village Hall and the Senior Center building. So those encumbrances, those don't affect this because they're not contiguous to that TIF region. But there are other ones over there that you as the board can direct or authorize, but there's no encumbrance right now on the book. So and remember, all the rest of that's been paid out. The total, when you transfer the 41 tonight, which I believe was on the agenda for transfer, wasn't it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a total of 240 as the amendment, or the transfer out.
And that includes the 40.
Yes, 280 is, 40 was already done based on your action earlier. It's 240 remaining.
Chief, so make sure I understand this. You're currently approved for $1,888,000.
Yes.
So is the extra 281, 210 on top of that?
Yes.
Because it seems like there's a lot of things in here that have already been approved as part of the 1.888.
That's correct, but as we ran it down, and Brian and I pretty well ran it tight, because certainly when I saw 240, I had a stroke. But once we got through all that, we rechecked all the numbers, and we have expended over the 1.883 right at this moment by, I don't have the numbers right, 10,335.97.
So your request is to increase the approved amount of $1,888,953.28 by a total of 281, 210, 20 cents.
420 or 14.9% over.
Correct, that's the motion, or that's the request.
Trustee Roll, if I could maybe help, give you an avenue to kind of look through the TIF obligations as I saw them. Our current bank balance, and I'm just going to speak to the total TIFs. I should separate between the contiguous one, but our total TIFs are just under $8.1 million. Of that, I had the Anytime Fitness that we have an obligation currently out there at $121,613. The vet clinic, $70,000. The stormwater project, $1.43 million. The repayment of the money borrowed from the sewer, water in general, roughly $2 million. So those obligations add up to $3.6 million. With this additional $280,000 added to the obligation, I'm still seeing a balance somewhere in the range of $4.1 million still sitting in the TIFs. And that kind of speaks to kind of what Kevin was also saying, that there's still money coming into the TIFs going forward. So, you know, even though I'm saying $4.1 million, there's still going to be some more infusion of TIF money over the course of some time.
I just wanted to make sure that we have these funds available, that when we have to work money from TIF to TIF, that it's available. We understand that, you know, some things came up in this project, and if we have it available, if not, we just need to have a discussion to figure it out. But I think that part is already been done. And so I guess at this point, it's just a matter of here and call for the question.
Okay, question is called.
I think that's really disingenuous to do, to just try to move to a vote with over unbased answers. I have a lot, I take exception to this entire conversation because it seems really played. Because you're absolutely right. I have a budget for Christmas every year, and I may spend an additional $50 to $100, but not six figures over my budget. And Chief, you and I, we are 200. First of all, the work's already been done, so we have to pay it. It's not something that we need to do. It's already been done, so we have to pay it. That's problem one. That it's circumvented the process. Because I asked several times that if there is anything above what we approved, that it comes to the board first before it happens. And it didn't. So here we are now. And to your point, Trustee Rowe, I don't understand how this thought process is that, you know, well, if we are short, then we have to figure out how we're going to pay it. That's not the way we do business. You're supposed to have a plan in place that is solid before we take action, not back our way out of it.
That's not what happened.
That is what happened. That's exactly what happened.
But we don't know how we got there as a board.
That's the problem. That's the problem. That's the problem. We don't know. Now we're getting a request for additional $240,000 because we don't know. Then that's the problem. I asked meeting after, and I respect the fact that the chief had a lot going on and couldn't get us a report. But it doesn't mean that now that we do get a report, the only report is that we're over budget and we need an extra $240,000. That's unacceptable. And then for you to say, and I understand where you're coming from, but I think it's bad business practice to say that, well, I just want to be sure that there's money in the TIF. We know, first of all, nobody can specifically tell us what the obligations are to those TIFs. Two, we also have to consider that while they might be contiguous, every TIF can't transfer from one to the next. And even if some of that is the case, there are several other projects. I've asked our village administrator, we've talked about this several times before, to present the board a list of projects, and she was given some that we can use that TIF money from to do other things in the village. So if what you're saying actually happens, if we move money from those tips, if we don't actually have it, then that's less projects that can be completed down the line.
That was my question to Brian Jensen. I said, what other obligations do we have on the tips?
And he couldn't tell.
He just read the numbers out. Is that right? He just read what obligations that are there.
Are those all our obligations?
These are the only ones I'm aware of.
So does that mean that those are all our obligations? And it's what tip? Because yeah, that could be obligations to specific tip, but that doesn't mean there's a continuous tip that we can even pull from.
So the insurance statement has been, what is it? What do we do with it?
Great question. See, this is what we do. This is what we,
What do we do with the facts that we were given tonight? What do we do with
What
that?
facts were we given? What? Other than there's a request to increase the budget after the work has already been done, when it was, first of all, again, it's circumvented the process. And you should be offended as a trustee that there was money spent on the project without you understanding what the bottom line is and where we are. Regardless of whatever circumstances prohibited, the fact that now we got a $1.8 million project and we haven't been abreast of where we are financially. That ought to disturb you. That ought to disturb everybody. But more than that, the fact that we try to move to the question is asinine. It's disrespectful. Because you're right, what do we do? What we need to do is have real conversations about the village's finances. And I've asked the chief, we talked about this a few times, are we going to be on budget? And the very first time, you said, no, this is it. Then you came back the second time, we were 40,000 over budget. This is absolutely it. You said you crossed every dot, dotted every line, that's it. And now there's an additional 240,000 that we need. So, if I'm looking at this correct, if this is coming out of the main street tip, is that correct?
No, it's coming out of industrial.
The who?
Industrial tip.
Okay, there's a little over 3.2 million. What else is obligated to that?
Really, in that tip, there's nothing that's really obligated out of that tip, but we have the benefit of that one touching the 5 or 4 other tips, so we can port that one. And that's
Chief, let me say
that's
this.
not our first tip that goes on.
Frank with you. I think you guys did a fantastic job with that fire station. I think that the way that we approached it and the financial conversations that needs to happen and the board being privileged to the information was a piece of poor job. You and I have always had a frank conversation. I think that the fact that we're here now at the 11th hour and having conversations about increasing this budget when the work is already done and it did come before the board. I asked Brian a number of times that when there were invoices or things associated with the fire station, that it be parceled out and that the board be made aware of this and are having these conversations. And none of that happened. What we did was we slid it in as transfers, but the board had no idea of where we were tracking with this project.
So to be honest with you, Trustee Lynch, I will take the blame on this one because I'm really new at this. And this has opened the eye that I need to take more ownership of tracking it along and understanding the end payouts that are still sitting out there that we hadn't accounted into the process. So this has been an eye-opener to me, and I will definitely be more involved in the future projects as they come up.
I'm not even interested in any one laying responsibility of any one person's foot. What I'm interested in is that we just do business the right way, follow the process, have clear conversations, and not just vote yes blindly for everything, not knowing where we stand. That's horrible. If anybody in this room that has both managers in their houses like that, that's horrible. Because nobody else manages their house and their finances not knowing where they're staying before they pay the next bill. Yes, we might have some extra money in the bank, but we don't get any information to know what's... So, Chief, the fire apparatus that you guys have come, where's that coming from?
Per your direction, that was financed
Finance, how?
by the finance company that was chosen
So that's not coming from the tip.
No. That's under that finance and we're waiting for the audit paperwork. You can't do that for the TIF.
I'm just asking.
No,
I
no, I,
didn't say
and I get it, and I do want to go on the record as well, this isn't all on Brian.
I'm not.
There's enough of it to go around, I'm just saying that we are where we are, and missteps, absolutely. But some of them are on me, some are on others, but Brian shouldn't take the whole brunt of that, he jumped into this in the middle, so.
Mayor, I think that there has to be serious conversation administratively when we have projects of this size and there isn't clear communication of our finances and alternative revenue sources of how we will fund projects should something happen, even with the fire truck. So that initially was supposed to be paid for by through financing. We haven't got approved for that yet, but the truck is on board. So if we don't get the financing, then I would imagine, because we can't use TIF, it'll come back to the board to be used for general funds. Am I correct, or do I listen?
The financing is still a process, the vehicle hasn't gone online or anything?
I'm saying online. So I thought that we gave them a deposit
Right.
for at least the assembling of this truck. Is that what you're telling us?
No, the finance company makes the payment to them, and it goes online once that, we're waiting for the finance package to be approved, and we need to draft the audit, and it'll get approved. Remember I told you the timing was of the percentage, there was a differential in the percentage based on when we got the
But
draft
we're
audit.
approved for a deposit to be paid for that pumper.
We didn't have a deposit, no.
No, there was never any money.
We didn't,
There
we
was a
didn't,
deposit.
no, we have not paid a deposit on that. Nope.
Because that was the reason for the approval, that we didn't have to pay any money up front, and it took 2 years
It was all through the finance.
to even get the apparatus itself. And so because there was no monetary obligation up front, that is how I made my decision from that point.
So we're not into an agreement with this pumper company.
You're signed on the contract is, what do they call that, an order in, on hold or whatever, pending the completion of the finance. We have our build spot, because they're 2 years out, anywhere from 18 to 24 months out, so you get your build slot, and that's moving forward, we're just waiting on the finalization of the finance, which, when the audit, they'll take the draft, once they get that, then they'll finalize them.
So I'm clear. You're saying we pay no money as a deposit for this pumper that we got on board. You're saying that there is no funds from the village of Glenwood for this pumper.
No funds have been distributed for the pumper since I've started.
But wasn't the interest rate gonna go up if, we didn't do this at a certain amount of time?
That was based on the audit, receipt of the audit, and we passed that date, so I think it did, I don't remember the exact number, but it was like 0.5% or something. It changed, it increased the percentage.
So does it increase again? What does?
I don't have it in front of me, but I don't remember any other subsequent increases. If we didn't make whatever date it was, then it was the new percentage rate.
Do you know what?
If it does, it'll come back to you, I have nothing more to do with that.
I mean, do you remember what that percentage rate is?
I don't.
Okay.
I do not.
Is there any other questions? Any other statements? Would you like to make a motion to amend the fire station construction budget approval, the increase of $281,210.20? Trustee Roll.
I second, and not because I think it's the thing to do, but it's the only way to go at this point that we are. But we do need to re-examine the way that we're processing this and how we do it. Okay. Right now we're on the shelf. Okay. We catch more hell if we don't than if we do. But I second.
Trustee Roll. Any
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, I have a comment. The reason why we're in this shape is this project and other project management is that the process is not being followed. The process is followed for anybody that's in need or things of the mind of doing are very small project is the process of information given to us at the proper time before tell us about the project and then let us know and let us make a decision whether to go forward or we spend a penny on anything. If we follow that process, we wouldn't continuously make this mistake or be in this situation. It's not about who's going to take the blame for it because there are several people that didn't follow the process of information that's supposed to come to us prior to anything being done in the village. Or just and if we do that, we would find ourselves in the same position every year.
Any other comments, questions?
My last statement is, we have to get away from the notion that just because our TIF accounts have balances, that the objective is to just port from one TIF to another when there's an existing project. What you're essentially saying is that we will allocate all resources to what's in front of us instead of understanding that there's still a larger program in place, which is the village and its future needs that we also have to consider. Once we take, it's no different than if you have a savings account for your electricity, then you have a savings account for your water bill, or your children's savings account. If you pull from one of those accounts, that means less activity gets to happen in that particular area that you pull from. And at some point, what you really will have to do, whether it's seen or unseen at that current time, you won't have the funding for it. Because we don't have a plan, we just haphazardly move money. Now I understand the implications that can have down the line. We can't just keep saying, well, their other balances are helping. Yes, they are, but there's a purpose for them. If there were not a purpose for each TIF, then those TIF districts would not exist. We have specific TIF districts for the purposes in which those TIF districts exist. When you start drawing down those other TIFs, that means less activity or work, the development that can happen with those. Yes, they do replenish, but they replenish at a rate. And the money's just sitting there. That's opportunity for us to reinvest that in the community. And not just say, well, it's just there. Don't just have it. If we're voting.
Last comment for me. So we're talking about $240,000, but actually we're talking about $281,110.20 that we're voting on. Is that right?
Correct. That's what the attorney reported.
Any further questions or comments?
I have just one thing. I know we talk about a lot, and some of it is frustrating, and some of it is just for us to deal with it. But I think my question, we don't have to talk about this tonight in a different meeting. How did we get here? Some of us were not even on the board prior to some of the things that we're hearing and talking about. And so I'd like to hear that. How did we get to where we are with the position of the financial statements and the financing and not finances, and not having a proper reporting? What caused this? Did this start during COVID, the lack of staffing? What caused this? We never talk about that. That never comes up. But every meeting is, well, we don't have this, we don't have that. When we talk about Miller and Cooper, how did we end up with that? What caused all of this spiral?
No accountability.
So I think that's the bigger picture, the timeline of you were getting reports at some point, right? So when did that stop? Or why did that stop? You were getting reports. What caused that? So, I mean, yes. What are we doing to get back on track? situation that we have to handle and we have to deal with. And we can't be emotional about it, we have to be factual. Yes, we have to, this year we do with what we do with the village's money, I get that. But what do we do, say no and not pay these bills or not finish these obligations? What do? Do we take a stand and say no? Then what does that solve, or what does that accomplish?
Who's not credited?
Right, what does that accomplish?
And to your point, who even brought Miller and Cooper in? Who suggested Miller and Cooper? Because I know I wasn't sitting on the board during that time. I don't know if you were sitting on the board during the first parts of Miller and Cooper. Who brought them in? I'm just asking. I'm just piggybacking.
Years, because regardless if it
No,
was
I'm not.
Cooper, or like I said, it was Lynch and Lynch, Brown and Brown, if there's no accountability or oversight to be sure whoever the hell is in here is supposed to do what they're supposed to do, they're going to run them up. So it doesn't matter. You can get whatever company you got in here, and when they came, who suggested them, who recommended them is irrelevant. What matters is who here now, what they're doing, for what they're getting paid, are they being monitored? Do they have objectives, deadlines, and are they being held accountable? And to your point, Trustee Rowe, a lot of what you're saying, like I said, is a lack of accountability from the board because the board just votes yes. Without concern, without question, without accountability, without, what's that again?
That's been going on for 4 or 5 years?
Unfortunately, yeah, you've had just some yes votes. So it's no surprise. Everything gets pushed through without question. And I want to give you a prime example without being too apprehensive towards you. Just like you tried to call for question, that's exactly how it happens. There's just rush through without the process happening for the conversations. So you calling a question means that nobody else, nobody, it does, because you brought it up. You want to know how it happens, it's because it's situations like that. Instead of having the intentional conversations and asking the appropriate questions so that you don't have this, then you move directly into just passing things. So that's how it happens.
No, you've been on this board for years, okay? So some of these things were transpiring before I got here. So you can't tell me that all of a sudden today, because I said that, now that it makes a difference.
But you asked the question.
You've been involved in the process way longer than me.
It had, I sure had the same conversation.
Excuse me.
Nothing changed.
Excuse me.
But you're here now, and this is here now, and what's in front of us now, who's here now making decisions. So regardless of what happened 40 years ago, we can't do nothing about it, or what happens in the next election. We make the decisions that's in front of us today. You vote for today. So if we know that it's a problem for finances, getting reports, not getting it, or reckless spending, whoever was on the board when Larry was here 10 years ago, or whoever will be on the board 10 years from now, they're responsible for what's in front of them, not what somebody else voted. Because your vote is what's important, not what they voted 8 or 4 years ago.
Excuse me.
Trustee Taylor wants to make a comment.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Okay, we were in the middle of a vote.
Yes.
Can we finish the vote, please, and then we can vent some more?
Is there any other questions or comments? Clerk Williams, call the roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Rowe?
Yes.
Trustee Lynch?
No.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
If we have further discussions on this, then I'll move to table this until we finish all of our discussions on it, if that's possible.
There's a motion to table. Want to make a second? Table one. Who wants to table this motion? Okay, no one wishing to table it. Clerk Williams, call it. Yes.
Okay, then I'll abstain if I can't table. I don't understand why I can't table it, but abstain.
Because it died for lack of discussion.
No problem, then I'm abstaining.
Okay. Any new business? Trustee Lynch, you are correct. I'll try and do those ARPA funds. We will town meeting for the next board meeting, so we can discuss. We already did it once, but we'll put things in progress of this thing. Is there any old business?
I do, just two questions. I know we talked earlier, but, any clear definition, I know Adam said tonight, where we are with audit.
Adam, if you want to give us an update of where you are, anything?
I handed what is over to the auditors. We're waiting on the audit report. I think there was a status update 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, they're following up on, I know on my side, I had one bank request that I'm still waiting from Fifth Third to get back, so we have that. And then they were gonna be reaching out to both of the pension funds to get better documentation to satisfy their audit. I know those were the bigger outstanding issues. So we're kind of in a waiting mode to get some of that document to them.
I'm sorry, so they're waiting on 2 outstanding documents?
Well, there's both the fire and the police pension documents, and then there's Fifth Third collateral documents that they want that Fifth Third hasn't been able to get yet.
So, you know, how long will it take before they get the fire police pension documents they need?
I was gonna follow up with them on Friday when I'm back in the office to see if they've been able to get that, and then to give them an update on where Fifth Third is, and hopefully have an update with that by Friday.
So, just for my, who provides those, who provides, fire police pension certificates? Is that something from us or?
It's the group that, Lauterbach.
And then, Mayor, do you intend to fill a service position before the election, or you got?
I would definitely like to. I've reached out to a bunch of people and definitely will fill the position. So if you know anybody that wants to do it, that's been the problem.
And then my last one, village administration, where have we had any interviews? Do we have any candidates for finance positions as lately, so that we can get real improvement right there as quick as possible?
So we haven't had any, review requirement as of yet. We're still going to extend the posting until Q2 before we get somebody.
You said nobody's applied?
We have not had anyone in the criteria.
Are we, are there avenues we explore to market?
We're trying every avenue, possible. Because we want to employ consultants.
And there's two positions, finance director, or is it just that one?
It's the finance director and this other position. So just the two.
So it's the other?
It would be the part-time.
I mean, right, is that like accounts payable or accounts
Right, so
receivable?
someone that does accounts payable, receivable.
And that's part-time?
Part-time.
Is there any other questions